My name is Mary O'Dwyer, and that is my full name. I have no middle name. I was born O'Dwyer. I never changed my name when I got married.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory TV and the HerStory Podcast. This is Gertrude Matcha here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. And I'm graced with the presence of yet another fascinating lady coming to us from the United States this time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Welcome to our tribe. Tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Okay, thank you, Gertrude, for that beautiful welcome. And hello and welcome to all your audience, all of your listeners. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Mary O'Dwyer, and that is my full name. I have no middle name. I was born O'Dwyer. I never changed my name when I got married. So I always knew since I was a teenager, I was never going to change my name. I actually grew up in Ireland in a little village called Blarney. So if any of you guys have heard of the Blarney Stone, so I was full of Blarney for the first 22 years of my life. And then I moved to the United States kind of on a whim. I got an opportunity to pursue a doctorate program in Nebraska, of all places, the middle of the Midwest. I'd never heard of it. I said, sure, I'll go. I had nothing really else lined up. And then I had that like sinking feeling, like, where am I headed? Like I saw it on the map and I'm like, there's a lot of snow, there's prairies, like yikes. But of course, what I didn't know was that when I got there, I actually met my husband. I didn't know he was going to be my husband, but I actually met him within a month of arriving in Nebraska. Didn't date initially. I kind of knew I needed to kind of find my own way, make my own friends, but ended up getting married, got my doctorate. And then after that, I decided, well, we're going East Coast or West Coast. So we decided to come to the West Coast. His parents were out here. My aunt was out here. And it's so beautiful here. So we're just a little bit north of San Diego in beautiful California. And we settled into life here. I got pregnant, had two wonderful children. My oldest son was diagnosed with autism. And when he was about 7, he kind of started to struggle in school. And I'd been told, not to have super high expectations. He was considered moderately autistic, but there was something in me that just wasn't going to settle. And so when he was around 7, I think I'd been working part-time, and I quit my job, and I decided I was going to use all of my science knowledge, because that was what I studied in school. I studied food chemistry, food science. I knew everything about food. I could read labels. I could understand the science language. And it put me on a path of exploring all sorts of alternative wellness for my son. And we did a lot of interventions. We joked, we went to every whack and quack, every potion and lotion. And we tried a lot of different interventions, and some weren't super effective, but some were. And he started to thrive. And so then he was about 12 or 13, and then I kind of lost that purpose because he was back on his feet, which was great. And it was one morning, and it was maybe like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. I was out walking my dogs early in the morning, and I ran into one of my neighbors, and she was just kind of saying, Mary, how's it going? And we started chatting, and I was like, not great. I don't know what's wrong. I'm just feeling like so blah. I can't put my finger on it. And I just was, and she said to me, Mary, it sounds to me like you're spiritually disconnected. And my brain honestly went, oh my gosh, like I've been in California, the land of fruit and nuts, for way too long, because this Irish Catholic girl, like that was like, okay, a little too out there. But, that planted a seed. And I remember sitting that day and just kind of like mulling that over. And I started to realize, I am really rote in all of my activities. And that afternoon, she was such a beautiful friend. She subsequently passed away, sadly. But she dropped up these books to my doorstep, I think Spirituality for Beginners and Mindfulness for Dummies, or whatever it was. And they were just real basic introductions. And I realized, Yeah, I get up and I go to church every Sunday because that's what a good mom, that's what a good Catholic does, right? I made homemade meals for my kids because that's what a good mom does. I did all the things to just, I was worked out because that's what you're supposed to do. And I kind of found myself, I was controlling so much in my life. I was controlling what my children were eating because my son was autistic. So I, doing a lot of diet stuff. And then I was controlling myself because now, he was kind of back on his feet. So then I got super into fitness, so I could control what I ate, how much exercise I did. Couldn't really control my husband. So that was kind of that's a joke. And so when she started telling me this, it just opened a door in my mind. And so then I, as things happen, I discovered this lady who did Reiki, and she was amazing, and she'd grown up Catholic. So I felt very safe with her because I was still very much in the Catholic box, let's say.
Yes.
And there's still so many beautiful things about that faith that still resonate with me, but there's also a lot of things that don't.
Yeah.
But it was a very safe place for me to start. And then I saw this flyer maybe a few months later for this workshop called Transformational Breath. And all I can remember the flyer saying was that it would give me more peace and more joy for $25. And I'm like, I am all over that. So, because I wasn't feeling super peaceful and super joyful. And I had everything that the world told me I should. I had a husband that provided. We owned a home. We had no debt. I got to travel back to Ireland to see my family every year. I had 2 healthy kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. I mean, we almost had the white picket fence, right? So I had everything the world told me I should have and I should be happy, but inside I wasn't. And that transformational breath workshop, I kind of joke with clients now. I'm like, don't forget to read the fine print. It's transformational. Your whole life is going to transform, because mine did. It had that first session just had such an impact on me. I literally walked out of there walking on air, like physically able to take a deeper breath, just because I'd, expanded just the way they had me breathe opened up so much, but also just having been able to let go in that process of so much, I'm going to call it trauma, more drama that, we bring on ourselves. Because I had this epiphany in that session that was operating my whole life on a belief that I needed to earn love, that I needed to get the good grades in order to receive love and acceptance from my parents. Now, that's not true. My parents were super loving, but that was what my operation. And I also thought, if I want to be the best mom, I have got to do everything organic from scratch, make it all hard. I got to do it like max out. I have to be the hostess with the mostest. I have to be, everything. If I want to do fitness and be a trainer, I got to be a size 2, and I can't ever gain half a pound, and if I run today, I better run faster tomorrow. And I thought I was running on that belief, and I had no idea. And then I was able to let go of that belief.
I'm going to stop you right there. This is a fascinating story, because you said something that really resonates. It's the stories we tell ourselves that really work against us the most.
It's so true, because a lot of these stories, these beliefs, Gertrude, we form something, don't quote me on this exact number, but it's around 80%. About 80% of the beliefs that are in our subconscious, we form them before we're age 8. And I think most of us would agree that up till age 8, we don't have a whole lot of discernment.
Yes.
But, let's say, so I probably grew up, I was one of 5. And let's say you grew up in a house where you get a lot of praise from your parents every time you do something. Let's say you're a really good singer, or you're a really good artist, or you're a really good whatever. And your parents give you tons of praise when you do that, because of course they're proud of you and happy for you. This is not on your parents, because your parents are just being wonderful parents. But as a child, you may start to then form, this is how I get love and approval when I perform. And so you may start to equate love with praise and approval.
Yes.
And it's just, and that's, now not every child is going to form that belief, but that's just an example of how we can.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. I have so many, those things that we hear our parents say growing up, or adults saying, money doesn't grow on trees. So then
that's a very common one.
Money is hard to come by. It's not true. Look at Bill Gates. Plenty of people have plenty of money.
Yeah.
But we just hear things growing up, and we may choose for some reason or another to start to
believe it. Yeah. And it's quite interesting hearing you speak, because I get a lot of women who I invite to come on these podcasts. I want to interview them and hear their stories. And they'll say to me, but nothing's actually happened to me. Nothing dramatic has ever happened in my life, but I still don't feel fulfilled. And it happens more in the Western world than anywhere else because you have access to all of the material things, like you're saying, the house, the car, the husband, the kids. And yet there's that little burning, yearning space inside you that's saying something isn't quite right. Something isn't quite enough.
Yeah. And I would say that's your spirit. That's your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you done? What has happened to you since you discovered this? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the methodology, how it works, so other people can get in touch with you and get some help.
Yeah, for sure. I was the person who fell in love with this modality, transformational breath. And before I knew it, I found myself in facilitator training and group training, which was really out of the box for somebody that was such a strong academic, where I was used to sort of getting a grade, mark me, tell me, like, did I get a 90% of that, 100%? What did I get? And to learn this process of, yes, where there's, it's a healing session, it's a healing process. And so there is no exact, there's parameters, there's guidelines, but I have to respond to what my client is presenting to me. So it's all about setting aside my agenda. It's even about setting aside the client's agenda because it's such a sacred healing process. We're really looking at what's going on with this client's body today, what's going on with their breath today, not what happened yesterday, not what's going to happen tomorrow, because whatever, this healing is going to happen in its own time and unfolds in its own way.
Yes.
And so for me to have to learn that was really kind of an adventure. And in 2017, I kind of came out of my breathing closet and created Mary's Blue Door. I let go of my health and fitness business that I had to devote myself to this work. And to kind of share a little bit about how it works. I think it's, as far as I know, it's the only breath work I'm familiar with where we actually look at how you breathe. There's a lot of breath works that will teach you a lot of techniques, and those are super valuable.
Right.
But what makes transformational breath, in my opinion, a standout, there's a couple of things about it, but this is one of them, is that to start, I'm just going to lay a new client flat. So I'm just going to have you lay down, and I do this both online and in person. I just have you lay flat on your bed or on your couch, or if you're at my home in my space. And I just look and see, where is there flow in your breath? Is there flow into the belly? Are you using your diaphragm? Are you using your diaphragm a little bit, medium amount, or all the way? Is there flow up to your chest? Because we learn when we're little children, Gertrude, that if we don't want to feel an emotion, all we have to do is hold our breath. It's like when you're driving the car, right? And you get a big fright in the car, like you go,
yes.
So it's our default, it's our survival. And every time we hold our breath, we're repressing emotions, and we're also tightening our respiratory muscles. And when we do that over and over and over and over and over, we actually diminish our respiratory capacity because our muscles are getting less flexible and they're getting shorter with that tightness, that contraction. So we can't take as deep a breath. So my first objective with somebody is, how can I position their body to support them best so that they can relax the most and take the deepest, fullest breath?
Okay.
And then, which is amazing. And then we breathe in a very specific way, bringing in that high energy of the breath. And when we bring that in, and in the way that we breathe, it actually builds that energy in your body. So you kind of start to feel that. You might feel some tingling, some heat, some coolness, some kind of floaty feelings, or maybe kind of like a weighted blanket feeling. There's all sorts of different sensations depending on the person. Right. And you bring in this high energy. And what this does then is it kind of stimulates any lower energies that are in our body. So I kind of talked about holding our breath when we want to repress an emotion. Well, generally those emotions are things like our anger or depression or sadness, all of those times that we sucked it up. We sucked it up so we didn't cry on the playground. We bit our tongue because we didn't want to contradict, our family, our husband in front of our mother-in-law, or, we didn't reprimand our children in the store because we're in the middle of, the public. All of those times that we swallow those emotions. So they're generally a heavier vibration, right? And so the laws of physics say if something of a high vibration, like oxygen that we're breathing, this life force, this chi, if that interacts with something of a lower vibration, some of these lower emotions, they're going to want to entrain, they're going to want to try and match. So what happens is then some of those old emotions that maybe we've repressed will actually come up to heal. And you may feel a sensation of that, like a physical sensation, like a twitching or an energetic vibe or a heat or something similar. Or you may actually have a memory and have an emotion associated with it. What's really neat about this process, though, is generally speaking, if we revisit an old sadness or an old grief or an old anger, it might take us a little while to get out of it. You know, we might be stuck there for a few hours, a few days, you know, get into a real bad funk. But in this process with transformational breath, you can actually move through it in like 1, 2, 3 minutes. And then you're like, then it's gone. And so at the end of a session, you physically can breathe more openly because we physically opened up some of those restrictions, but you've also started to let go of some of these old wounds and old dramas and traumas that you've been carrying. Then some you are aware of and some of you are not. It's kind of like that feeling that you might feel if you've had a big cry, you know, and you have that relief afterwards, or let's say you're under pressure, there's a big deadline looming and you're going all, you know, nose to the grindstone, right? And then that deadline, you meet that deadline and it's gone. And you're like, and you can just feel that weight lifted from yourself. Well, that's how you feel in every session. And it's just amazing. I think you're on mute because I'm not hearing you.
And all of this can be done online or offline. It doesn't make a difference.
Online or in person. It's amazing. When we, you know, with COVID last year, we had to shift and start doing this online. And I'll be honest, I was skeptical. I'm like, how can this go from that just seemed like such, but I received a few sessions as I was training for, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really effective. And what I offer anybody that's skeptical is like, I totally get it. If you're skeptical, come to one of my groups, my online groups, and only pay me if you get something valuable from it. You know, I give you a risk-free trial, so to speak. It is, and it's the power of the breath. The breath it's our life force. It is the chi, it's the prana, it is spirit, it is respiration, respiritization. We are reinvigorating ourselves, and it's done amazing things to kind of get us as practitioners, get our ego out of the way.
Yes.
You know, clients like, I want Mary to facilitate me because Mary feels, and I love the way she touches me this way and does that. This takes all of that because now it's really just working with the pure power of the breath. And it actually, in my opinion, it empowers my clients now to step into ownership of like, I tell them, I'm honest with you, my job is to get you to fire me at some point. Because we all have this, the breathing is free. I'm here to teach you the techniques to support you through the maybe the first number of sessions, or to support you through any sessions down the road that are going to be challenging. I still get sessions where I'm facilitated, but I do a daily practice by myself every day because I know I don't need, but it's like getting a massage, right? We can massage our own feet, but when you really need a massage, you go get a masseuse, right? They're
exactly.
But I really love to empower my clients to step into their own healing. All I'm doing is helping them to activate that within themselves.
So if you were to go back to the younger you, that young woman who was in this spot, stuck, not knowing which way to go, and if you could have a conversation with her, what 3 nuggets of wisdom would you tell her?
I would tell her not to worry so much about what everybody else is thinking. I was so wrapped up in believing unconsciously, I had no idea that this was my belief, so caught up in thinking that I had to perform in a certain way or be a certain way in order to get people's love and approval. I really didn't let my mask down, or it was really just me.
Right.
So that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to trust. To trust yourself, to trust your innate wisdom. And I love now that I'm a different parent to my children than I would have been if I'd never discovered this work.
Right.
just to trust that things are going to work out. Because, my kids mess up just like I messed up. But I would beat myself up because I thought if I don't punish myself enough, then I'm not going to learn the lesson. I've got to cause myself pain in some way in order to reinforce the lesson. But that's not true. And let me see, what would be the third thing? Is that we're never alone. We are never, ever alone. And it doesn't matter what your faith system is. You don't even have to believe, in a faith like I do, where I do believe in God. I love the angels. I love all of that. But, and I've worked with clients that don't have a belief. But I remember working with this little girl. And I said, well, just tell me, what's your happy place? And for her, it was horses. And I said, well, that's your happy place. That's what you have faith in, is like, how do the horses make you feel? Yes. And so I'm like, whenever you're sad, you go to that place. So you're never alone. We are never, ever alone. Ever alone.
Oh, I do love that. That is just absolutely beautiful. Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to your future for my last question for this interview. So time is an illusion. Your past, your present, your future are existing in the same timeline. And you can go and have a visit with the future you, your future self, sitting at the age of 100 in your rocking chair, watching over your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. Based on how you're living your life right now, what would you say to her?
To my future self? I am going to just say a big fat thank you. Oh. Thank you to her for not holding back, for chasing her dreams, for letting go of the pressure of how fast it needed to be. Because the young Mary always wanted a timeline and, you got to achieve this by this day and that time. And if you don't, you're a failure. But I really appreciate that about my future self, that she was just able to let go of that, really step into that trusting and surrender into that flow of knowing that she wasn't alone, that she always had support, and knowing that she was never afraid to be frank with God and the angels and kind of say, hey, dudes, you've asked me to do this. You've asked me to get way out of my freaking PhD science comfort zone. So you better back me up. You got me into this mess. You better get me out.
Love it. I love it.
So that's what I love about her. She's feisty till the end, and she's not sitting in a rocking chair at 100. She's sitting on a couch with a big old glass of Cabernet, and she's enjoying every drop.
Thank you for the correction. She's going to be a feisty 100-year-old. I love it.
Yeah, and that's one of my goals, is I want to live till I'm at least 100, but not just existing. I want to thrive. Healthy. I want to be alive. I want to be a part of my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, however many generations. Not that I'm ready for my children to have kids anytime soon.
Man, thank you so much, Mary. This is an amazing interview. And how can people get hold of you? How do you work?
So the easiest way, if you're international, is to find me on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. My YouTube channel is Mary's Blue Door, spelt just like it sounds, MARY''S Blue Door. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook at Mary's Blue Door. My website, marysbluedoor.com. And you can also email me, shocker, Mary at marysbluedoor.com. I tried to keep it simple.
I will put.
And I actually have a blue door. I have a blue, so you'll know you're on the right website when you see me. And there's a blue door behind me.
I will definitely put all of these links with a transcript, with a video. Thank you so much for such a refreshing interview. You are a bundle of energy. I'm so glad you found a way to slow yourself down, because you were really pushing yourself to the limit there. And you found a beautiful way to balance everything out. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Yep, this is the HerStory Circles podcast. We meet the most phenomenal women from different walks of the world. Thank you for tuning in today, and have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Thanks again, Mary.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you, listeners.